This episode is brought to you by Skinny Pop Popcorn. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Oh, so light and crunchy. Skinny Pop Original Popcorn is the snack you've been searching for. Made with just 3 simple ingredients: popcorn kernels, sunflower oil, and salt. Snacking never felt or tasted so good. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Give yourself permission to snack and pick up Skinny Pop Original Popcorn today.
Brew Strong is brought to you by Blichmann Engineering, home of the Riptide. Visit them online at blichmannengineering.com.
Brewers, it's time for the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by 2 guys that drink before they think, Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
Hey, everybody. I am not Jamil Zainasheff. I'm Justin Crossley.
I'm Travis Campbell.
And I'm Mike Persine, and you're listening to Brew Strong.
And we are stoked that you're listening to Brew Strong. I'll tell you why I'm here in a minute, so you don't panic that you have to listen to me instead of Jamil. But today, our special guest, our very special guest, is the new president of Blichmann Engineering, Drew Barnes, our wonderful sponsor, and our first time getting to meet him on Brew Strong and the Brewing Network. Welcome to the show, Drew.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Stoked to have you.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
welcome.
As people know, Blichmann Engineering has been a sponsor of this program for pretty much its entire life, which we are so stoked about. And just, Jamil always had such a great relationship with John Blichmann, and the Brewing Network itself has had such a great relationship with the company and everybody there. So we're just so happy to get to meet Drew and carry on the torch with you, Drew. Like we're your home on the podcasts, man. We're your spot, you know.
We appreciate it, man. We appreciate it. And I'll tell you what, over the years, it always amazed me. We'd have people come in, or, even if we were at the shows, but for me, a lot on the pro side, we'd have customers come visit us, and it never failed. If they got to meet John, they had to thank him for sponsoring Brew Strong. And it was, person after person. Hey, I learned to brew listening to you guys, really appreciate you sponsoring this. And so ever since I've been at Blichmann, we've had so many customers come in, and that's the feedback we get over and over. So it's pretty awesome.
I'm so happy to hear that, because it's, most of our sponsors experience that. And to me, it's the sign of how cool our listenership is. So not only do we love our sponsors so much, but we wouldn't have sponsors if our listeners weren't so damn cool. So it's always good to hear. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, I'm here in place of Jamil, in case anyone's worried. Jamil is okay. He just was feeling a little under the weather and had some things to do to take care of himself. And we didn't want to move this show because we've been trying to get Drew on. We've been trying to coordinate our schedules for quite some time, and we finally did it. And we wanted to just make sure that we got to do this with Drew. So Jamil will be back. He's just currently taking care of himself. So asked me to fill in, and I'm just stoked to do it. It's my first time. I haven't done a Brew Strong in quite some time. It's my first time doing it with Mike and Travis. So guys, thank you for trusting me to come on and not buffoon up your show,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be exciting.
I was just thinking we got to start a rumor about Jamil and something with his butt.
Yeah.
Something happened.
He'd probably be upset if we did, right?
I don't know. Yeah. Start the rumors now.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know exactly what's wrong with him, but it's most likely something with his butt. Let's be honest. So, just leave it at that.
That's awesome.
Well, on tonight's live broadcast, if you're on Facebook, and it did take me a while to get us there, we've got this show and another Q&A show coming right up. If you're listening on the podcasts, then both of those shows will be separate and published likely 2 weeks apart from each other. But we'll get through tonight's show and the Q&A show. I clearly won't be answering a bunch of the Q&A questions, but I'll be here to lend moral support to Mike and Travis. So you got me for that. So let me ask you this. What are you guys drinking before we get into what we're supposed to be getting into?
I'm doing Bell's Hazy Hearted IPA.
Hazy Hearted. I haven't seen that one yet.
Hazy Hearted. Yeah, not too hearted, hazy hearted. And it's really nice. It's part of a variety pack I found at the old beer store. So just enjoying that on a nice cold Tuesday in Reno, Nevada.
Do you have the Black Hearted in that 12-pack also?
I have Red Hearted and then Experimental something, and then the Two Hearted. So
yeah. Gotcha. I am drinking St. Arnold's H-Town Pills. I like to start a little light and work my way up.
There you go.
It's their year-round pills. I like it as a good go-to kind of lighter beer.
And Drew?
Yeah, I didn't hold out long, man. So I've had a cold for a couple of days. I was drinking some hydration powder and some water, and I switched. So drinking some Jimmy Juice. So we're out here visiting one of our awesome customers. These guys are killing it. Make some really, really good stuff. So if you're in Pennsylvania, check them out, man. They working with all the fun licensing stuff like all of our pro brewers do. You guys know all about that stuff. And so they're figuring out how to get out of the state of Pennsylvania. But right now, they are absolutely killing it.
Love it. Very nice. I've got a faction. Actually, here's a question for you guys after I tell you. I have a faction Trajectory XPA. All right. It's an XPA. Now, I'm curious what you guys think an XPA is. They're kind of coming back. When I was at the Great American Beer Festival this year, I had several XPAs around Denver. So is XPA mean that it's extra as in higher alcohol APA, or X as in like, oh, it's an XPA. It's a bit lighter of a. I was having this conversation with my staff here, so I'm curious what y'all think.
I'm betting high sevens, like a Torpedo, about 7.7, 7.8.
I just thought Torpedo instantly. So yeah. I would think that would be the benchmark, is a stronger classic style kind of IPA.
Do you guys think of like an extra strong IPA or pale extra pale ale?
Shoot, I almost think like for me, Torpedo is just kind of, it's a very bitter, very bold, very, flavorful. It's not going to be like some of these newer modern style IPAs that are super crispy and floral and tropical. It's going to be kind of like your sea hops, a little bit of crystal malts, and going big on flavor.
Right, so this is where I don't like the branding of the XPA. So to me, XPA used to be popular, and to me it meant like extra light pale ale,
extra dry, extra smaller,
or extra dry, or extra. But okay. This is listed as an XPA, and then underneath it's listed as a strong pale ale. So it's not a strong IPA, it's a strong pale ale. It's a 6.3% pale ale from Faction Brewing Company. It's absolutely
that far off, Travis.
There's no need to have a bunch of controversy about it. I just when I saw it on the menu, I was like, oh cool, I'll have a light pale ale. And then my buyer/bartender was like, no man, that's extra pale ale. It's extra. It's more of a pale ale.
Right. But not more of an IPA.
But not more of an
IPA. Yeah. It's XPA, not an XIPA.
XPA.
Yeah.
It's delicious. But keep, just be on the lookout. If this is in a popular style again, check your ABVs. I'm curious if some breweries, because to me, extra pale means lower.
Good, yeah.
But what the fuck do I know?
I believe there's at least one on the market that doesn't call itself XPA, but does say extra pale. They do indicate what you mean. Yeah, they do mean lower.
I just remember everything Jamil would say about these beers, and he'd say, if I call it a pale ale, nobody will buy it. So I add something to it, and then they'll buy it. Like he did that sessionable IPA, which was basically a pale ale.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm kind of with you on this, Justin. I mean, extra to me means more. And so if you're following that with pale ale, then it's more pale. It's
more pale.
Yeah.
Thank you. To me, it's obvious. But I got looked at like I'm the idiot, Drew. But to me, it's obvious.
And we all get that look.
All right. Well, why don't we get to the bottom of who exactly Drew Barnes is? And I think Drew, you've been with Blichmann Engineering for quite some time. You want to tell us when you started and your trajectory?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I started Blichmann about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago, actually. Yeah. So I, got out of college, didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. I'm sure I'm not the only one in the world that's experienced that. Bounced around, did a few jobs, kind of moved up and, liked some things, didn't like some things. I think some of the best advice I got was figure out what the hell you don't want to do.
There you go.
I figured out a number of those things, I'll tell you. But I got some good experience, working with people and learned a lot of different things. So when I started at Blichmann, it was actually, I just got married. We had, I think my son, who's now 10, had just been born, like maybe a month old or something like that. But I was living in Indianapolis, and I grew up a little town called Burnettsville, 500 people. So grew up on the farm. And my wife, complete opposite, grew up a nice neighborhood, Carmel, right by Indianapolis, big city. And I think, coming from almost like two different worlds, when we wanted to start our family, it was like, where are we going to live? And so we kind of settled in Lafayette, kind of best of both worlds, not as small as where I grew up, not as big as where she grew up, kind of that middle ground. And so Blichmann actually was a company where I had heard through a couple different people who knew John. It was just an up and coming business. And, they spoke really highly of him. And so I was looking to make a move and just happened to find John and get an interview, came in there. And I actually started, believe it or not, at the front desk. So
nice.
Think, trying to think my position, they called it like order analyst or something like that. So I worked with the retailers and, back then, I mean, we didn't sell direct. Everything was through retailers. And it was, we had a lot of errors and it took forever to ship things back then. I was, I guess, early in the Amazon days, but most people didn't compete with them. It's a different world today. And so, changed a lot of things. I lasted in that position a couple months. John bumped me up to production manager, and then I kind of worked my way through the business.
Wow.
And really pro. So when I started Blichmann,
were you a home brewer? When you applied for that job? No. Were you a beer drinker?
Oh, yeah. I was a beer drinker. I'll tell you what, the confusing shit was working with John. He's trying to teach me how to brew. Now, John knows so much. I mean, almost everything he said to me just flew right over my head. So, we're brewing in John's basement, which, people, well, I'll back this up for a second. So when I started there, I used to tailgate. So Purdue's there in Lafayette, right? Went to Purdue. And I'll never forget when I told one of the guys I tailgated where I worked. He was a big home brewer. And he's like, wait, you work where? And I'm like, Blichmann Engineering. And he's like, wait, like the Blichmann Engineering? I'm like, yeah. He's like, that's here in Lafayette, like flipping out. He's like, okay, you know what I call that? I'm like, but I have no idea. Like, what do you, he's like, that's homebrewers porn. Like that magazine sits next to my toilet. Like I just stare at that equipment. It is awesome. And I was like, holy shit.
Hopefully you told John this story.
Yeah. It was awesome. But I remember like, wow, I guess I'm working for a pretty cool company. I had no idea. This is awesome. So yeah.
And I'm sorry, what did you go to school for?
Actually, organizational leadership and supervision. So people side. So HR, management, that kind of stuff. And, at the time in school, it was a great degree. A lot of athletes were in that field. And to be honest, it was because I could drink and party and it was stupidly easy. So that's why I went to school for that. Now, I was very surprised how much of that I've been able to apply in the actual world.
Perfect.
Well, that's what I'm going to say. Clearly it transferred over some because you're only at the desk for a little while and he moves you up to, you're already running some things.
Yeah. Well, and it was cool too when I started. So they put me out in production. So I got to build everything, ship everything. Our shipping girl at the time actually, man, I don't even know that full story. She got really hammered, somehow fell into a fire pit, got burned really bad. She was out for like a couple months. And so when I started at Blichmann, there was only a couple of us. We're building everything. I think that's one thing that I would say about our company. People really don't understand. John did a really good job with marketing and making Blichmann look like this really big business. Not at all. Today I think we're 13 people and, between Blichmann and Anvil, and we'll talk more about that. But even back then, I don't even know that there was 10 of us. And so her being out, there was like 3 of us building and shipping everything. And so I really got to learn that side of the business. And when the girl I was training to replace left, I did a bunch of time studies, tried to figure out, hey, the holidays are coming. We're behind in shipping. What do we need to do to get caught up and then maintain through the holidays? And so John's a big numbers guy. So ran a bunch of numbers, sat down with him, the next Monday and said, here's what we need to do, get caught up. And it was immediate. I had no idea he wanted me to be his production manager. And he's like, we're making a change. And so it was a couple months in. So it was pretty exciting. Figured out a lot of different things and we made a lot of changes. So it was cool.
Amazing.
Well, and honestly, so, John taught me a lot about brewing, but I think this is going to sound really dumb. You guys are definitely going to laugh at me for this. I'm usually overly transparent about things to a fault, but I think the thing that never clicked with me in brewing is, there's all the terminology. And I think John just assumed that I knew all the terminology. So he's throwing this stuff at me. And I think I'd probably been at Blichmann for probably a year. And somehow it was, I never understood why we took gravity readings. I never understood why, we're measuring all these things. And I'm like, well, what the hell does that mean? And finally, at some point, we started talking. It was the sugar content in the water. I'm like, well, why the hell didn't you just say that? why are we using all these damn confusing terms to sound fancy? I don't get it. But no, it was great. So I learned from John, and then we fired up the pro side of the business, and I had gotten production to where it was in a really good place, was helping John with a lot of different projects, trying to grow the business. And so I jumped on the pro side and actually helped with the pro customers and growing that side of the business. And so one of the tough things about this industry is you've got to do your research, right? So every Friday, religiously, I was out there drinking with the brewers, talking to my customers, learning from them, visiting all the breweries. Again, it's research, man. So
that's what I call it too.
So much. Yeah.
Hey, Drew,
well,
in all honesty, and I love that like human element that you're bringing, but that's real talk. And, when I started the Brewing Network, I had to go to every festival and every beer event and everything. And it sounds silly. And of course I was having a great time. I chose this job for a reason. But the only reason the Brewing Network really succeeded and that we know everybody is because of that. You have to get out there and you have to do that. So I know that that's just a great joke for us beer drinkers, but truthfully, you have benefited from that, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I learned so much and talking to those guys. And I mean, just like you guys, you're doing these podcasts, you're always talking to new people. You learn so much. And so every Friday, and going to the breweries, just talk, what do you like about your equipment? What do you not like? What can I change? What can I do differently to help you guys? And I think, I feel like looking at the brewing world, it is a small world. You go to these shows, you see a lot of the people, and I think from growing up in that small town, it's really helped because, the way we grew up was you jump in, you help everybody, and everybody kind of knows, like, it, again, this is a small town, but in a small town, everybody knows what everybody else is doing. So you've always got to be mindful of that. You've always got to be thinking about that. And so you've got to be willing to jump in and help. And if you don't, everybody knows it and they're going to give you shit about it. And so I feel like in the brewing world, it's so similar. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. And I know it's not like this in every city, but there in Lafayette where we're at, the breweries are incredible. And I know it is this way in a lot of places, but they all help each other. You need hops, you need yeast. What do you got? Shooting texts around. It's just a big community. And I think it's so cool because so many other markets are just not that way, at all. It's super competitive, cutthroat type stuff. And it is not that way at all in brewing.
And to be a manufacturer who genuinely listens and who's genuinely asking questions over that beer, you don't come off as a salesperson. And you weren't. You were like, no, seriously, we're called Blichmann Innovations. Like, what can we innovate for you?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what it was like. I wanted to work with you. Even out here meeting with these guys at Jimmy Juice, that's what we're talking through the tanks. And it's like, you guys aren't making traditional beer. How can we change the tank to work for you, man? Right. And that's what it's all about. Like, we've got to help the customers. And so again, I guess I say, when you ask who I am, I think a lot of the way I grew up translates into that. And it's just a different mindset, when you go into it and you want to help. So oddly enough, you said sales. And so I actually trained sales and technical, like how to install and stuff before I was at Blichmann. But the hardest thing to train people, I used to call it the give a shit. And, people would come into my training class and they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, when you walk in and you talk to a customer, you actually have to give a shit. And if you're genuine in that, you care, that shows up. If you're there to try and sell them a bunch of dumb shit, they don't care. And they're going to see that. And they're just get out of here. I'm not interested. And it's not about that. And so the cool thing is, if you walk in and you care and you listen, you've got equipment and stuff that can help them. And so by you caring, you make a better sale. It helps them and it helps you. So it's a win-win for everybody. But when you go in there trying to jam equipment down their throat and sell them every last thing, they get it, man. It's not, you're not fooling
Not
anybody.
only do you don't care, they don't care.
Yeah,
And they're going to tell their friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah,
absolutely.
All right. Well, let me do this. Let me get us to a quick break. But I do have a big question for you when we come back from the break. I'm going to tease it now, but we've learned about you and why you've been there, but I guess I still want to know why you wanted to take over. And if we're honest, you're taking over at a tough time in beer and home brewing and all of that. So before we jump into, what else Blichmann has and what you're doing, when we come back, I want to know why you decided, you know what, I love this place and I want to take it over. And I'm curious to get into your head about that.
Very cool.
Hang in there. You're listening to Brew Strong. We're here with Drew Barnes from Blichmann Engineering, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for a simple brewing system that's great for all grain brewing, but everything on the market seems to be full of compromises? Blichmann Engineering has the answer. The Blichmann Brew Easy All Grain Brewing System. The Brew Easy is a complete system with easy upgrades and a beautiful compact design, perfect for any size brewing location. At its core, the Brew Easy is built on two gorgeous Blichmann Boilermaker brew kettles, a high-temperature March pump, and either a top-tier gas burner or the new Boil Coil electric heater. The Brew Easy adapter lid allows the pots to stack on top of each other, forming an efficient, strong, and compact brewing setup that comes in 5, 10, and 20-gallon batch sizes. Upgrade your Brew Easy system with full automated control by adding a Blichmann Tower of Power temp controller, and make moving around easy with the Blichmann Kettle Cart. The Brew Easy is modular. If you already own a Boilermaker kettle, you can build your Brew Easy by purchasing just the modules you need. The new Brew Easy all-grain brewing system. See it today at BlichmannEngineering.com and brew with Blichmann quality on your new Brew Easy.
Back to the two guys that know how to turn beer into beer. This is Brew Strong.
Welcome back to Brew Strong. I'm still not Jamil Zainasheff, but I am filling in for my good friend because I love his show and I love him very much. And I wanted to, we can't be skipping over shows with guys like Drew Barnes from Blichmann Engineering. So that's what we're doing tonight is we're talking to Drew. And just before the break, of course, we were getting to know Drew, and I said, hey, there's one at least last thing I need to know, at least one more thing. And that, you took over Blichmann, I don't know, should we call it a year now, just about?
Yeah, I mean, it was, John has been ready to retire for a few years and just spend time with his family. He's worked his ass off, and so we've kind of been talking about different things. And so actually February is when it became official.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, but we're closing in on a year. Yeah.
Closing in on a year. Yeah. John's just got to go shoot stuff and be John.
Oh, yeah.
I get it. So... But I am curious, it's an interesting time for craft beer and for home brewing and everything else. So what made you go, no, you know what, John, I'm ready to go all in on this company. Let me help you retire.
So honestly, you asked me why I want to take over. I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I really did. Yeah.
I love your honesty.
Matter of fact, man, I didn't. And, something my wife and I talked a lot about, and as he was looking to retire and he was looking at exit planning and trying to figure this out, he's talking to other people. I was having conversations with these people. And so when you asked me why I bought it, it was those conversations. You start talking to people that want to come in there and they're like, well, let me look at, the numbers, and let me look at, how we're going to manage this place. And we're going to come in and we're going to cut half the people and half the products, and we're going to do all these things. And, especially in today's environment, it's rapidly changing. I mean, I saw Spike put out a poll recently on their user group, and he was talking about the industry and how far people are down. It's huge. I mean, it was like down 40% last year, down another 40% this year. I mean, it's crazy. And so managing through that, it sucks, if I'm honest. It really does. But I looked at the business and at this point, I've hired almost every person that's at Blichmann currently, and we've just got phenomenal people. And so having somebody come in there and tell me, we're going to cut half the people in the products, I just didn't want that to happen, if I'm honest. And I wanted to help John protect his legacy. So it was like, I believe in what we're doing. We've got an incredible customer base. I mean, the brewing world is just an awesome place to be. And so it's like, I don't want somebody coming in there looking at this as only dollars and cents, and their motive is just money. That was never John's motive. That's not my motive. And so in buying the business, it was, how can I take care of these people and our customers and John's legacy? And so that's ultimately what led us to figure out, how to get this done. So,
But I mean, look at all we're doing, and we're 13 people, and you want 6.5 people to do this?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, those other 12 people, I love them.
Yeah.
And we're doing outstanding. Yeah. That's a recipe for disaster.
Man, they call a lot of places, they say like we're a little work family. We're family. We truly are, and we enjoy that. It's a lot of fun. And I just, I couldn't stand to see that happen. So
Great answer. It's a very honest answer. I love that. And look, there's, the Brewing Network, Blichmann, and More Beer have stood together at White Labs also have stood together for so long. And it's you just described why we all treat our businesses the same way, and that it is family, and that we love the industry too. We love our customers and my listeners. And I think that, there's a reason that my sponsors today are the same ones that they were way back in 2005. And the ones that came up in the middle and kind of fizzled away, they treated things like you were afraid some newcomer was going to treat your company. And and the Blichmans and the More Beers of the world are still treating my company, the way you described. So what a great answer. And I hope it works out for you. Because
you and me both, man. You and me both.
Yeah. Because 40% down, it's rough. It's out there. But I do think your core of customers, your core of what you do, and obviously your core of staff, that's going to make the difference. That's going to get you through. But it's tough. And I'm here for you. I wish you luck, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Might need a little bit.
we all need a little bit.
It's just that time,
Well, so let's talk a little bit about Blichmann, and obviously our the Brew Strong listeners, the Brewing Network listeners, they know lots of things about Blichmann, but are there just the two main brands, Anvil and Blichmann?
Yeah, so Anvil, Blichmann, and then we've got the pro side of Blichmann, and so we kind of spun that off into its own little brand, and we're kind of bringing that back and marrying it back into the main portion of Blichmann. And honestly, what drove the whole pro side is just homebrewers over the years we're starting to go pro, and they wanted bigger equipment. They were familiar with our stuff. They knew we made good quality and we stood behind it. And so when you start looking at pro brewing equipment, it's like, well, who are these guys? I don't know all these companies. And it's so intimidating, man. You look at some of the big systems and you can heavily automate those systems, which are phenomenal. Also, a lot of pain points can come from that too. But it's overwhelming. And so many of our homebrewers were just overwhelmed looking at those systems. And so the reason we kind of spun pro off into almost a separate brand, it was confusing for our customer base. Blichmann was always so highly innovative. And then all of a sudden we bust out this pro brand and we're trying to keep things simple. Kettles, you're moving hoses, simple controls. And it was almost the opposite of what we'd always done on the Blichmann side. And so we had people come in there just like, disbelief at the prices of our brew houses and stuff. They're like, well, what do you mean this is only, $15,000 for our system back then? And it's like, well, we're trying to get people into this. You're in it. If you're starting a brewery, it's a labor of love. You've got to love this industry, love what you're doing. And it's going to be a lot of work. And it's tough. There's so many people who want to do it and they can't afford to. And so by simplifying that, it just made the point of entry a lot easier for people. So
what is the biggest size pro system a pro can buy from Blichmann?
So when we first started, it actually was our 3.5, and then we grew the 3.5 to 5 barrel, and then 7 barrel, and then 10 barrel, and 15 barrel.
Oh, no kidding! I didn't know you go up to 15 barrels.
Yeah. So and so not our bread and butter, but again, we've got customers growing, and they're like, "Hey, I want a bigger system. Can you guys make this for us?" Well, absolutely, we can. It's not something we go out and advertise a lot. It's not something we talk a lot about. But yeah, we absolutely can. And then we've done tanks, 60 barrel, we're talking 100 barrel. So, I mean, we can make our tanks a lot bigger. And that's pretty scalable. That's not super difficult. So
That's a strong percentage of all the breweries that exist right now could have your equipment. I mean, 15 barrel is probably 60-70% of what's out there, if not more, is that or smaller. That's significant.
Well, and the crazy thing was too, so we used to go, John and I remember going to NanoCon, sitting at around the conference tables with people and just talking. And as soon as they find out you're from Blichmann, it's like it goes from the group atmosphere to rapid fire questions just at you. And it's fun. It's fun, man. But
I know your equipment. I trust your company, and now you make bigger stuff too. That's outstanding.
Yeah. And so it was cool. What we always heard from customers is every other equipment manufacturer says, go bigger. Go bigger. Get the biggest equipment you can when you start. I understand why they say it. I get it. But I can tell you, in today's environment, you get a lot of people in that 10 barrel, 15 barrel range, and it can be tricky. They're dipping their toes into the water of distro, and that can be a tough world. And that's one where you've got to go all in on that or don't do it. And so
the jump from there to 30 plus right now, unless you're just one of the superstar young up and comings, I don't know what, that's such a Hail Mary. Because absolutely. And Jamil if Jamil were here, he'd talk about this. The jump from one to the next, it doesn't seem when you go, 7 barrels, now I'm going to do 15. Now I'm going to do 30. It doesn't sound like a lot.
Right.
It's massive. The actual jump in scale is massive.
Well, and the other side of that too is, so you're jumping up in scale, but then you get these guys that are brewing once every other week. Because they can't turn the beer because their system's so damn big, and then that leads to they don't have the variety. When people come into your brewery over and over, it's the first question I ask every one of my brewers: what's new on tap? What do you got? What am I going to try today that you guys came up with? Same reason you guys are following all the recipes online, trying different things. I mean, same thing that drives the home brewers. The customers want the variety when they walk in there. Now, I mean, you've got your Miller Lite drinkers too that want to walk in and order the same damn thing they've always had, and there's some comfort in that, But even those guys might try something new. So actually, today I witnessed it. We were out to lunch with the guys from Jimmy Juice, and it was cool because a couple Miller Lite drinkers sitting at the end of the bar while we're grabbing lunch. Let's buy him a Jimmy Juice, and it was funny because the bartender walks over and ask these older guys, again, sitting there with their Miller Lights, and you guys ever try Jimmy Juice? This guy down here wants to buy you one. And again, it's the guy that makes it, right? And they have no idea. And they're like, why the hell would we try that? We lose a bet or something? It's like, yeah, it was kind of funny. They were a little insulting at first. So anyway, they ended up being really nice. He bought him a Jimmy Juice. And by the end of it, of course, when the one guy gets up to take a piss, his buddy's sitting there and he's like, I think this is going to replace my, I'm trying to remember what his gin and tonic. He's like, this is going to replace my gin and tonic when I'm out at the lake. He's like, this is great. I'll buy some more of these. So it's kind of funny.
Back with you, yeah.
Feel like, what is that?
Well, and so look, craft beer it's not going anywhere. It's just in this phase. And so I think you're right about the scale and the size. And then I do just want to go back to something, especially as we might talk about some more of your equipment.
Yeah.
One thing is that people ask you like, hey, this is what I want. Can you do that? And from what I've known about your company the whole time I've known y'all, I've known John for almost 20 years, so he's not a person to say, no, I can't do that. No, I don't think we can do that. He's going to listen up and go, oh yeah, no, I think we can make that for you. And of course, those are probably some of your regular products now, and maybe there's some of your custom products for new brewers. I don't know what, but I do think that's like the scale right now is that's where it needs to be. Like a brewer needs to feel listened to, and yes, I can make that for you. And consumers also want to feel like, oh, you're a little 15 barrel. I like that. You're my neighborhood brewery. Neighborhood breweries are still doing great.
Well, it's like the old Cheers motto. You walk in there, and that's what these breweries, especially when I drink on Fridays. It was the same group of people every time. We knew every one of them by name. They walk in there and they love that. They love it when you walk in and you know them. And that's a good core customer base. And then other customers coming in seeing that. It's just fun. Everybody enjoys that.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, how about this? Let me get us to one more break. And I know that something our listeners are always interested in, and that's like this electric brewing revolution is what I meant to say. back when I started the Brewing Network, gas versus electric was like, yeah, you're going to do gas because electric is annoying and difficult and expensive. Well, that script, I think, has flipped. But people still have all kinds of questions about gas versus electric and Herms versus rims. And so I still want to dive into some of your offerings. And I know that the guys here are going to have questions from our listeners about that. So if we can take a quick break. Yeah. It's my fault. I forgot to tell them that when they invited me to host, I tend to just do it.
You're doing wonderful.
You, man. I'm sorry.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
But you're about to find out that when it comes to the technical side of stuff, which is what Blichmann does best, I don't know shit about F. So I'm going to take a quick break. And when we come back, that's what we're going to do with Drew Barnes from Blichmann Engineering. Hang in there, and we'll be right back.
Learning to brew has never been so disgusting. This is Brew Strong.
Welcome back to Brew Strong. I'm Justin Crosley, filling in for my good friend Jamil Zainasheff, and we're hanging out with Drew Barnes today from Blichmann Engineering. He's the new president, took over the company, and is doing good things. That's what we're learning about. And before the break, I did mention that I wanted to learn some more about what our listeners are interested in, which is, some electric versus gas and some Herms versus rim systems and things like that. But before we do all that, if you're listening live, you've got an opportunity for some Black Friday sales happening at Blichmann. Do I have that right, Drew?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to send out an email on Sunday, and I guess it depends on when you're watching this, but it'll outline the entire week sales, both Anvil and Blichmann. So we've got sales for both brands every single day, something different for you. So.
Awesome. We'll put some notes on the Brewing Network Facebook page as well. That way you can click over that way. And I've become a huge Black Friday shopper myself. I do a bunch of I have 4 hobbies right now. I think I've grown, not just
that's expensive.
It's gotten so expensive, which is why I wait for Black Friday.
So Black Friday Brandenburg
sales. Spend it all. Yeah. Spend it all.
Well, what are the other ones?
So I call myself RV ADD. I'm very into camping. I have a Volkswagen bus camper. I have a 4Runner that I do some gnarly off-road with. I've got the RV that I use and I live. So they're all kind of based on like adventure camping and stuff.
Yeah, very cool.
But I have 3 stupid different vehicles that I do it with that I have to wait for Black Friday sales to buy anything for because it becomes.
Oh, it adds up. Yeah.
Did you start off with Jamil's old RV? Do you still have that?
I did start off with Jamil's old RV. I blame him for part of this. Now I sold that.
Is that where the butt problem started? Was that in the article?
I wasn't going to say anything.
This seat's making my butt itch for some reason. I don't know what's happening here.
Absolutely.
He doesn't even know me yet, and here I am.
You're fine. I'm like, yeah, no wonder he gave this to me at a discount. Like, what? Yeah. Now that one I traded up though a few years ago, but that was I dipped my toe in with that piece of shit. And yeah. So, all right. Black Friday at Blichmann. You can go to blichmannengineering.com or check out the Blichmann Facebook page or of course the Brewing Network one. And we'll put some links to what's happening for Black Friday days there.
Yeah.
And you started saying something about John, like taking on anything too. And I thought that was interesting, and that's an approach where on the pro side, that's easy to do because it's low volume. So we can customize most of the things we make fairly easily, which is great. Same thing, homebrew on the kettles, some of those things. But then on the Anvil side, that's more volume. So there's really not much customization there. But over the years, we brought more and more of the Anvil in-house. And actually, that's one of the things with the business I'm really looking at changing is we're going to bring more and more of the manufacturing internal. So we outsource a lot of our parts from all over the world, and we want to bring more and more of that back so that we can do more customization. But truthfully, look at the market. As things slow down, the more control you can have over your supply chain, the better off you are. Yeah. I'm excited to bring some of those changes, but it's really going to allow us to take that to the next level, Justin, where we can kind of customize more and more. So give us a call if you need something.
Absolutely. To me, that's the Blichmann name right there. I just remember going to homebrew conferences one year, and he's got this crowd of homebrewers around him asking for things. And then I'd be there the next year, and there's the things. There they are for sale. And here we go. So,
Yep.
yeah. All right, guys. Well, listen, Mike and Travis, I know that you guys have a more of a handle on our listeners here where they, they're always asking about electric versus gas and Herms versus rims, like I've been mentioning. So anything specific you want to know about that stuff, like what's, in the product line and maybe what Drew thinks is a direction he should point our listeners?
Yeah. So in my mind is this matrix between Anvil and Blichmann, and again, electric and gas and so forth. And you have different offerings. You offer both, all of the above and in all the above.
Yeah.
But not the same. I mean, I don't think there's a single bit of overlap between all the equipment, other than the fact that you have kettles in both series, you have burners in both series, including a beautiful burner I saw the other day that actually had Anvil's name on it, just came back out. So, is there a method? There's got to be a method to the madness. Is there a specific, like, how do you handle which one gets the gas, this, electric, that, and so forth? Any advantages you see in each line for one versus the other?
So, and I'll kind of back this up almost a little bit even before this, gas versus electric. And it's really inherently the difference between Anvil and Blichmann. And so when we came out with that Blichmann line, I remember John talking about it at the time. And, I can tell you internally, like, he always referred to Blichmann as the Cadillac of the industry, super innovative. It's the nicest stuff you can get. And that was what we were going for. And then when we started Anvil, it was more about, we're seeing competition come in and they're undercutting us on price all over the place. And it's like, we need a line that can compete with that. It's good quality. It's simple, because a lot of that stuff that you buy at the cheaper price, the quality just wasn't there and the company wasn't going to stand behind it. And so we saw that. And so that's really where the Anvil line came in. It was like, let's make some good stuff, a little bit simpler. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles of the Blichmann, but you're going to make some awesome beers on this. We're going to be behind it to back it. And then you can get it at a much more affordable price. That was inherently why we started Anvil. And so over the years, if I'm honest, Travis, it's been tough, man. It's so hard. There's so much thought that goes into how can we not step on each other's toes, between the two brands, between Anvil and Blichmann. So to your point, we have burners in both, but the BTU ratings are different and the size kettles you can use are different. The new Anvil's actually the stainless ring. I think that actually looks really sweet. So I'm pretty stoked about that one, but that's a whole nother deal. So it's gone into from an early stage of every product development meeting. We had those conversations and we had to talk about how are we going to come out with this in Blichmann, but not be a direct competitor with Anvil and vice versa. And so that conversation's gone on over the years. And so we've had to be really careful with that. And honestly, even, I'm going to stretch this a little bit. So I feel like as you go through gas, there's just, you're lighting up a burner, you're throwing something on there, you stand there the whole time and you monitor your kettle. If I'm honest, it's fun. It's also a pain in the ass. If you jump up to where you're using like a Blichmann controller with a burner, I don't know if you guys have used the used to be the Tower of Power. Now we've got the Brew Commander. But when you use that with gas, night and day difference. And I can vouch for how awesome that is, especially if you fry a turkey. You can overshoot your temps really easy and that oil will light right up. There's a reason we don't advocate people using that. But anyway, that controller takes all that pain in the ass monitoring right out of it. So I feel like, base level brewer, I start with gas and then I move up to where I'm controlling my gas, which is really nice. And then when you go electric, that's the next level of control. So if you're really trying to nail your temps, that's where it's at. And, but again, even so when you jump into electric, you're dealing with elements, right? We see it on Pro all the time. Those guys are brewing 2-3 times a week. It's a pain in the ass cleaning the electric element. Nobody likes that. So even as we look at products, and we'll talk about this here in a little bit, but looking forward, if I can't make a product that allows you to brew quicker and makes your cleaning and your brew day easier, then it's probably not worth developing at this point, if I'm honest. And so as you're working your way through your brew day, and you look at home brewers out there right now, nobody likes cleaning. It's a pain in the dick, so we've got to find ways to make that a little bit easier. So when you jump up to electric, having to clean those heating elements, it's a pain. And so that's where, the Foundry is nice, the all-in-one, you don't have to worry about that. And then we jumped, similarly to the Surface on the Blichmann side. And I don't think that that kettle hit, I think, at the wrong time when home brewing was really slowing down. And so if you have you guys brewed on one of the Boilermaker Surface kettles?
I have not. No,
I haven't, but the technology looks awesome.
It's badass, man. It's so nice to not have to get in there, take an element out, scrub on the damn thing. And our boil coil wasn't bad, that's something I learned too. And I don't know if you guys have talked much about that, but
I just have to stop you just because now I got to know, why do I not have to get in there and clean it? You have to describe this product to me.
Yeah, no, good point. So we took the element out and it's built into the bottom of the kettle. And so it is basically adhered to the bottom of the kettle, or just a simple way to put that. And so all of your heating comes up through the bottom. And so there is no element internal to the kettle. And so when you go to clean, you're wiping out your kettle just like you normally would. There is no element. Okay. Yep. And so from a control standpoint, you still get the same control you've always had. It just drastically reduces your cleaning time on brew day. And once you use it, it's kind of, I liken it to when you went from gas to controlled. It's a huge jump. And when you go electric and then all of a sudden you brew on something like the Surface, it's like, what do you mean I don't have to clean that? Like it makes your brew day so much quicker and easier. And that's what it's all about at this point. And so, we talked earlier, but so much of the technology from Pro has trickled down into homebrew. And so that's one of the things where we actually moved that from homebrew on up to Pro. And so we have a Pro Surface now on our 3.5 that we actually just launched in the last few months. And same technology. These guys are brewing on it 3-4 times a day. You're spending half an hour a brew day cleaning your damn elements. What a waste of time. And so we built the elements into the bottom. And actually on the Pro side, we did a little differently. Those elements all bolt to the bottom of those kettles, and they are like giant hot plates that they use in the restaurant industry. So the technology's been out there for a long time. So it's not like, this is some new fringe thing that's going to be breaking down all the time. The technology's been out there forever. It's going to be reliable. But again, we took the cleaning out of the kettle for the heating element.
You answer my next question too about like hot spots. I'm picturing these like straight long elements underneath and creating these like nucleation points, hot spots, whatever. But now you just kind of answered it. They're more plates.
Yeah, so we cast that into a big plate that actually covers the entire bottom of the kettle. And so that heat is evenly distributed. So makes a big difference. That way you don't have the hot spots. You're not going to have, any kind of scorching or anything like that. So it's really nice. Yeah.
You said a 3.5 barrel?
Yeah. So we're doing that on the 3.5 now, which is something new.
What's the wattage on that?
So each one of those elements, I believe we cranked those up. Originally, our elements were 6,000. There's Tom back there. 6,700 watts on each individual element. So we've got 3 of those in the kettle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you're getting a really good heating rate, even better than our original 3.5. So
that's outstanding.
Yeah.
Not going to run that off my RV.
No, if you've got the power though, it's pretty sick. but to the point, so through the different brands, and we've really had to be careful with that and just try and make sure we cater. Each brand is a little bit different. And so those products don't overlap, but inherently over the years, we have a lot of overlap products. So something that I'm going to drop on here that I guess we haven't talked about, we're going to roll out a new website, which should hit in the next month. We're going to get through the holidays, make sure everything's good. And then we're going to roll out a new website. And that was one of the things we talked about, was the ability to buy both lines, because we have some Anvil products that work well with the Blichmann and some Blichmann products that work well with Anvil. And so when we're done with this, you'll be able to go to either website, add to your cart, and you can check out in one cart and buy both Blichmann and Anvil products. Nice. So we're pretty excited about that. Again, it's how can we help the customers, because it gets confusing when you're trying to navigate 2 websites. So many people out there don't even realize it's the same company. And so there are some products we've designed that work together, but you would never know it. And so we're kind of excited about that.
So like the Riptide pump. There's no reason why you can't use that with Anvil products. So speaking of trying to help your customers, Brian in the chat says he needs a Whirlpool setting on his Brew Commander. He says it's badass, but needs a Whirlpool setting. He uses the MASH program, but I think he'd feel better if it said Whirlpool. So just change the text maybe.
Okay.
It's literally just a text change. I love this.
Yeah. Well, that's easy enough.
Same setting, but Whirlpool. I'm totally paraphrasing, not understanding Ryan's exact statement, but yeah, he loves the Brew Commander evidently, which it looks awesome. I'm an Anvil guy right now.
Yeah, and we've been
10 point.
the Brew Commander took forever when we built that thing, the programming behind it, because we wanted you to be able to pull profiles in and the timers and kind of do everything in one little box. And that was really what we set out for in the Brew Commander. So maybe even just some simple name customization in there would solve
You
that
can make its
whirlpool
own
problem.
whirlpool session. That'd be nice
Yeah.
to stage. Yeah, very cool. Yeah. It's coming, Ryan. It's coming. You just hang tight.
To me, hearing you describe the difference to, when John said way back when, hey, we are the Cadillac, but we need to be able to compete with these undercutting. You see it in the tool industry, the massive tool industry right now. But when you go to the Home Depot, when you go to wherever, the difference between buying Craftsman or I don't know what the lesser one might be, right? Or let's even just say the difference between going to the Home Depot for your power tools or going to Harbor Freight, where you get them, for $99, but the quality isn't there. So I guess I never really thought of it that way until you explained it to me that was sort of the vision between the two. Hey, well, we can compete on cost by removing some features, but maybe we don't want to remove any quality because removing quality sucks.
Yeah, and that was inherent. So we tried to pick the Anvil name because it makes you think of durable. It's going to last forever. Anvils don't just go bad. I mean, they last forever. And so that was kind of the thought process behind that. You saying that too. I don't know if you guys, I'm going to jump out of the box here a little bit. Have you ever watched, there's a YouTube channel called Project Farm? Is it Project Farm?
This is when we need Jamil because he's probably watching it regularly. And I'm not
this dude is
aware of that
awesome.
One.
He does a ton of reviews. Everything's independent. So if there's a tool you're looking for, watch this dude, Project Farm. He's a badass. And so he does all these experiments on his own dime. He puts numbers behind everything he does. But I want to get to your exact point, Justin. When you're saving, everybody's after saving money, right? That's why Black Friday does well. Everybody wants to save money. But you don't know if you're buying the Milwaukee versus the,
let's say Chicago pneumatic, because I'm trying to figure out which part of China is called Chicago.
There we go.
Okay. You walk into Harbor Freight and you can buy some really inexpensive tools, but are they worth a shit? Are they going to hold up? I mean, what's the old saying? There's nothing more expensive than a cheap tool.
Totally.
It could be true, man. And so the Project Farm guy, I dropped that because he does some phenomenal reviews and he goes through and compares the low end all the way up to the high end. He'll do 5-10 products at once and run them through a ton of torture tests to see what works and what doesn't. And
it's
so
not the thin guy that talks really fast, the whole video feels sped up.
He does talk fast.
Is it that guy? Oh, he's outstanding. I've only seen a few of his videos. Yeah, it's really good.
And it especially when you look at tools, it doesn't matter what you're buying. He's got a video out there on it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But
he was setting wrenches to the point of breaking wrenches and stuff. That's
But this is the perfect example because if you're a person who uses your wrenches every single day, then you're buying, I don't know, I'm no brand. You're buying Snap-on. Just buy what's going to work forever. I needed a belt sander the other day. Do you know how many times I'm going to use a belt sander in a year? Half a time, maybe once.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, I bought it for a project, but I was like, I've always wanted one, so fuck it. So I went to Harbor Freight. That's okay. I feel like there's a place for that. But brewers, if you're going to abuse your shit weekend in and weekend out, you still need the quality. You don't want to just go buy a cheap heating element. So,
And we don't really have a apples to apples Project Farm guy that does brewing. Maybe I need to reach out and see if he'll do some brewing equipment. But torture test,
absolutely,
that'd be awesome.
Give him some ingredients and be like, "Here you go, man."
Yeah, let it rip.
You got a guy that likes to post on your Anvil page. I think he does some other testing, but he doesn't test hard enough. We need to talk to him about testing harder. Push them until they break. I put half an inch of work down at the bottom of his burner, and I let it cook for 3 hours, and I came back to see what the element looked like. Things like that.
One of the things, John was always real adamant. He didn't ever want to badmouth anybody else in the industry. He's always tried to be really careful with that, keep it on the up and up. And I'll never forget when I started at Blichmann, one of the things we did was a salt test on kettles. Okay. And I don't know if you guys have ever done that, load a kettle up with some salt water. And basically what you're trying to induce is rust. How quick can I make this thing rust? And so I'll never forget, we left a couple kettles over the weekend and came back. I believe one of them rusted all the way through. It's all about the weld seams. Are they, anyway, long story short, our new Boilermakers, there is no weld seam. It's formed. It's one piece. So there is no weld seam to ever rust. But I remember talking at the time and I'm like, John, we got to do a video on this. We should be showing, those kettles versus ours and how, I know no people aren't putting salt water in their kettle, But the point is, how long is this going to hold up? And if you're spending your hard-earned cash on it, you want to know that. You want to know if it's going to hold up and last a while, or if it's honestly a piece of shit that's going to be done in 6 months. And with stainless, that's not usually the case. And obviously, how you take care of it, how you clean it, all the caveats apply. But a side-by-side comparison of one that rusts all the way through versus one where there is zero rust makes a difference.
Yep.
So,
and not even about bashing anybody. That's just great content, man. I would watch that shit.
Yeah.
I want to see
we also
look, even if you found out like, oh, hey, one of our pumps didn't hold up well, like that'd be cool to watch and see. Like, oh, now we know what we got to fix. I don't know.
Hell, we even talked about we should, of course, a little bit different. We put an anvil on the top of the building and drop it on stuff just to see how it. It's kind of a fun thing to watch, on our YouTube. Like, let's just start anvils on shit, see how it holds up.
I'm all about this stuff. Well, as I'm browsing my off-roading YouTube videos, I will divert to these. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
That's awesome.
What about, I see on our list of questions here, because we do a little pre-planning about like mash techniques and control accessories like that. Travis, do you have, or Mike, do you guys want to ask about, the Blichmann line of products there too?
So there's definitely a blurring of lines happening on that because the anvil is the all-in-one, and to me the anvil can be treated like a rims directly, and I use it like a rims or mash. And you have the Brew Easy, which I have no experience with, but if I ever get back to 10-gallon batches, I cut back because of beer drinking. Don't worry about it. But if I ever get back to 10 gallons, I probably would like to go to a Brew Easy because the bling factor over the 18.5, which is going to be as excellent as the 10.5 I'm using right now. So if you could talk about, when you buy a Brew Easy, is it like a built-in rims also? Or
so, effectively, yeah. So I always think, with the Brew Easy, I learned to brew on a Brew Easy. If you talk to John Blichmann or you talk to anybody at Blichmann, they have always traditionally brewed on a Brew Easy. Once we came out with that, it was kind of a game changer for us. The problem was...
Sorry. Do we need to explain what that is and what rims is, et cetera, Justin? What do you think?
We can quickly describe the Brew Easy. I think that's enough.
Yeah. And that's kind of, so with the Brew Easy, basically, it's two kettles, and it's similar to your Founder, your all-in-one, right? So with the all-in-one, you've got your grain basket down in there, all your heating's in the bottom of that kettle, you're lifting the grain up and out of there, right? And recirculating, obviously. And so with the Brew Easy, you're doing the exact same damn thing. You just have all your grain in the top kettle, and then you're heating everything in the bottom kettle, and you're just recirculating. So it's effectively just like recirculating in an all-in-one. You just have two kettles. And so when you're done, instead of having to lift the grain basket out, you just take the kettle off. You let it all drain. And so it's really, really nice. But again,
do you have videos for this on Blichmann's pages anywhere about how all this works?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. And I can tell you that's been the hardest thing to describe to people, because with the Brew Easy, if you don't understand how it works, you're just like, why do I need two kettles? What's going on? And so for a long time, we tried to market it as the original all-in-one because it really hit the market before all these other all-in-ones. But people just, John and I always used to argue about that. I'm like, it's two vessels, John. It's not an all-in-one. But the functionality of how it works effectively is just like the all-in-one. People just don't think of it that way. And so Doug, I don't know if you guys know Doug Granlund. Doug worked with John for a long time, really helped him kick off Blichmann, was our tech support guy. He just retired here the last year. Nicest guy in the world. When we would go to those shows, he would have a line and he would stand there and talk to somebody for like 10 minutes looking at the Brew Easy. And we always joked about it, but you would see the light bulb like click on in their head when they finally understood how it worked. And then they're instant like, I'm going to buy one. That's awesome. It's so much easier than three vessels. You lose a little bit of efficiency, but damn, it's nice. And again, it goes back to quicker brew day, easier to clean. There's definitely a trend there.
If you want a third vessel, get an HLT. Keep your a little bit extra water warm, and you get your efficiency right back also, if not more.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, it's easy enough.
Yep.
Well, and does the efficiency loss really matter at the small scale too? As long as you're calculating for it, you're not really. It's not really costing you money per se.
No.
Yeah, you just have to calculate. Yeah.
So pro brewers versus home brewers. So we have a lot of conversations about this. Obviously, I've worked with a lot of pro brewers, and that's one of the things when people go to start the brewery, you're not a home brewer anymore. And we always try and be as nice as possible. We want to help our customers, and sometimes being pretty real with them. Tom, who's sitting over there on the couch, listen to this. He's always very, very real with our customers, which I appreciate about him. You don't brew the same way when you jump up and you start a brewery. It becomes a job. Nobody says I want to add 2-3 hours to my workday. Right? Even if you love your job, you still typically don't say I want to add 2 to 3 hours to my workday. And so, we fought it for a long time on our pro side. John refused to do a Herms coil, just wouldn't do it. And so I said, we are losing so many customers because they want that. And, he always, to a fault, John always tries to educate people and teach them the right way to do things. And so on the pro side, it was, you're going to use that Herms, but it's going to take forever. It's not efficient. It's not worth doing. It's not worth messing with. And again, on the homebrew side, from a volume side, you need to heat, even just maintain temperatures. That's where, those help so much. But when you jump up to pro, the volume's there. You're not losing a bunch of temperature because the volume is so high. And so that's what people didn't understand. It's like, you're not losing 10 degrees over that hour. You're losing a degree, maybe a degree.
Terms on pro size. That's large. I mean, wow.
Oh yeah. And we built it. We have it. We offer it.
Yeah. And I would hope you kind of, for me, you're trying to like control this thing two factors away. Like you're trying to control the temperature of that water, which then is heating your coil. But then so as you heat the water, then it's like this, the degrees of separation is very wonky for, and then especially like you said, with those giant volumes, that's a lot of energy. And that could be very cumbersome. So I would, from a controls perspective, really be like, hey, you don't want to do that at that scale.
Yeah, temperature's slow. Temperature once removed is even slower. Yeah.
And if I could defend 3-vessel for just a second.
Yeah. Oh, there's
I have a 3-vessel
pros. Yeah,
but I will tell you, I have a 3-vessel, but so I do the propane for the liquor tank, and then I do the rims rocket for my mash tun, so I can step, I can maintain, I can do anything mashing out, and then when I go to the kettle, I'm back to propane. So for me, where the amount of available power to where I'm in the corner of my garage, so I would have had to do a lot of work. The propane works out good, but then I have enough that I can run that. I do your 110 volt rims rocket, which works fantastic for what I'm doing. And
nice.
If I could just say that, like in terms of like if you're going gas to electric to gas, or like for me, I really enjoy the gravity feature. Like, so I actually will sparge with gravity with your auto sparge. So I just open a valve and I forget about it. And it's kind of nice when I'm sparging and stuff. So I don't know, just little things. And I don't know if I had one more question for you about, specifically heating with rims rocket. I mean, maybe it's more of a request than I would love to see some kind of, I know your Brew Commander comes with the unit that has the screens. I think what would be really cool to see, and I was just to get your feedback on what you think about this, is so much of what happens now is like you get things that are headless and then it has an app on your phone. And like, so I know that a lot of barbecue accessories like smokers and controlling units and stuff, they don't even come with screens. They don't have a big control box. They just have a little transmitter that hooks up to your Wi-Fi, and then everything's through your phone. What do you guys think about that over at Blichmann? Is that something you've been looking into? Is that something that you guys are just about to launch, and I'm spoiling it right now?
No, you're good. You're good, Mike. So honestly, John was way ahead of the game in that, and he designed the Brew Vision. I don't know if you're familiar with the Brew Vision thermometer. And so his long-term vision was that we would make the controller, we would make all these other accessories that would be part of this Brew Vision line. They would all be app controlled. And then we came out with the Brew Vision. The cost of that app was a lot. I'll just put it that way. And we had people adopting the Brew Vision at a decent rate. And then when we came out with the Brew Commander, and I actually need to get this answer from John. For some reason, we did not integrate the app with that Brew Commander, and I don't know why. And I'm sure it was cost related or app changes or something along those lines, but we didn't do it. But effectively, when we came out with that Brew Commander, we almost made the Brew Vision obsolete, because if you have the Brew Commander, you can do all the same things in it that the Brew Vision did on the app. And so to your point, Mike, I've actually been having some conversations recently with the app developer and with my hardware guy for the Brew Commander, who makes our actual control boards. And so, oddly enough, it's a little company in Indiana that makes those for us. They're super good people, just a small business. So I've been talking to him. What does it take to get Bluetooth and Wi-Fi in there so that I could pull the Brew Vision and have it Bluetooth to the Brew Commander so that it can read the temps from the Brew Vision, and then the Wi-Fi module in the Brew Commander could link up with the app. And so I've talked to the app developer about it. It's definitely something that can be done. We need to explore the hardware side, see what it takes to get that in the Brew Commander, so we can kind of bring that whole ecosystem together and then maybe expand on that from there, because there are some huge advantages. On the pro side, we build a timer into our panels. So if you want to heat up water early tomorrow morning, so when you wake up, it's ready to go. But on the homebrew side, I mean, it would be nice to have an app with a timer built in where you could do a lot of that, or you're at work and you're coming home to brew that day. You could kick on your kettle before you get there. I mean, there's a lot of advantages to that. Obviously, that's why you asked the question. So looking into that, man, looking into that.
Cool. Yeah. I guess to follow that up,
Nice.
just one other thing that I don't know. I don't want to be like more recommendations, but I would always love to see, like, because I have a lot of barbecue stuff that will alarm your phone. Like, it literally, like, if you're in another room and it starts yelling at you like, hey, your stuff's running away, for whatever reason. And then the other one was, I love cloud-based data logging. So, like, I actually use barbecue technology for my homebrew setup because they have the ability to log to the cloud, and then I can download that and, keep it for posterity or to, stuff like that. I don't know. Just I would love to see that, and I think you guys could do the best job of it. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, man. That's cool. Well, things to keep in mind. Like I said, I just started having those conversations the last few weeks with those guys, so we'll see where that goes.
Awesome. Yeah, I look forward to it.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. What else you got?
Well, unfortunately, this is what I like.
It's like I'm going to cut your ass off. That's what
only because of time. But this is what I love about Brew Strong and all of our shows. They get to keep going, and we've got such an ongoing relationship with Blichmann that me cutting this off because of time just means we get to have you back, Drew.
Yeah, we'll jump on here again. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Well, this was our first show, and look, we don't know what we're gonna get. I'm sure I've met you before over the 10 years, but we didn't get to hang out and talk. So for all I knew, you didn't have anything to say. And turns out you've got plenty to say, and you're just as passionate about Blichmann as I'd hope you'd be, and brewing. And so this is going to give us so many more topics over the shows to come. So I'm not ashamed to go, hey, I think, guys, this is a good time to stop this one and invite Drew back for the next one, right?
Yeah. So I do want to say there was one thing on the agenda we didn't get to, and I'm just going to jump this out there for like 10 seconds. Upcoming equipment.
Okay. Yeah.
And so a lot of things we're working on. The most immediate is going to be a product called the Brew Station. And we are actually inviting some home brewers in to our shop here in the next couple of weeks to come test out the prototypes, give us their feedback, see what they think. Did they like it? What do we need to change before we launch this guy?
What's the idea behind it, the Brew Station?
So the idea is, if I ask, we can see some of Mike's setup there behind him, right? Yeah. Where do you store all your equipment? When you're getting ready for your brew day.
There's just kind of a hot, if I could be the weatherman over here, there's a hot mess of crap on this table over here. And then I've got my hoses kind of hanging wherever I can find somewhere to hang them to dry. Yeah. Not very organized.
And that's common. I think that's how everybody's doing, right? Same with my stuff at home. It's in the top of the damn garage. And so then I've got to go find this here and that there and put everything together, get it all cleaned up, ready to go every time I brew. It's a pain in the ass. And so again, as we look at products moving forward, I want to make it your brew day quicker. I want to make it easier to clean, things like that. So the premise with the Brew Station is we're building something out so that you've got one place to store your equipment. And our hope is that same place is actually your whole brew table. Everything you need is right there. It's well organized and you're ready to go. And so we're building that, but we want to make it so that you can customize it to your space.
Drew, dude, you are speaking I buy cases for my cases right now. Like, I love my stuff in its rightful place.
Right. And then you've got guys like me who would love that.
Brilliant. This is brilliant.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So that's what we're working on now. We're looking at like a Q1 release for that. So early next year is when we'll be launching that guy. So we're excited about it. And it's going to be modular, build it out over time, build it the way you want, add accessories. And then one of the things, and we'll have to jump back on here and talk to some customers, maybe do a Q&A. Yeah. I want to see what people think. What accessories do you want? And again, as I bring some of that manufacturing back in-house, I want to speed up product development. Mike, if you've got an idea for an accessory, like, hey, I want to mount this chiller to the side and you guys don't have it, if I can get that back in house, I can have that ready to go in like 2 weeks and I'm launching the product. So that's my end game, is to get quicker to market with all those products by doing it in house and being able to listen to our customers and make what they need. So
love this. So it's so cool because there's so many brewing innovations right now, and a lot of us are pretty kitted out. Like Mike's pretty kitted out back there. Yep. So you're like, well, what's next though? Sometimes your kit's all over the place. This is some very forward thinking, and I love it.
There's some really cool like DIYs out there. People have gone to all lengths to try and make their little setup for their, and there's some cool ones out there, but people need help.
We need help. Like for those of us who don't have time or knowledge to do that, I want to buy what someone else figured out for me.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
So we're excited. Sorry, I had to get that one in there.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Nice.
Like I said, I'm the guy that is disorganized and would love to organize, and then we've got the organizer who organizes his organizations.
Yeah, totally. But by the way, I'm pretty disorganized. It's tools that help me organize. So that's why that's why I have cases for my case. So for sure.
Nice.
All right, gentlemen. Well, that is our Brew Strong for tonight. Of course,
thanks for having me on,
Drew. Drew, we're so happy to have you. The new face of Blichmann Engineering, clearly doing some good work. You can go to blichmannengineering.com. There's going to be a new website launching soon. Sounds like maybe after the Thanksgiving holiday, I think you said.
Yep.
So pay attention there. And then, of course, Black Friday sales. If you're watching live, you're hearing this promo. Otherwise, we'll be putting it on social media for you anyway, so people can go get their gear. So, yeah, Drew, thanks, man. It's good to have you on. It's good to get to meet you on the show. And we look forward to more of these with you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
All right. Travis and Mike, sounds like we got a Q&A show coming up, right?
That's correct. We have Q&A.
That's what little bird told me.
All right, good. Hopefully my technical difficulties didn't keep us going too late. And y'all still got time for that. So I'll get the hang of this podcast thing eventually. It's only been 20.
You guys got another show, right? Is that what you said? So
yeah, we do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in to Brew Strong. I'm your fill-in host today, Justin Crosley, and we will be back with another episode right after this. Stay tuned for more, and thanks for listening
to Brew Strong.